I don't think my films are in the same range as Bruce's. Bruce's films were primarily...
What truth has Chuck Norris, now 85, finally shared about Bruce Lee? Their epic connection in The Way of the Dragon and real-life friendship has amazed fans for years. Today we dive into that story. We'll cover Chuck's tough start, his rise as a martial arts star, and the big moment he met Bruce. Plus, we'll explore his family, love life, and wild times after fame. Stick around to hear Chuck's own words on Bruce. Get ready, because number 13 spills the real deal you won't want to miss. Let's jump in. Number 15. When Chuck's wife faced a health nightmare. Chuck Norris faced a tough time when his wife Gina got sick in 2017.
Nothing's going on here. She's dying. She's dying right in front of me here at this hospital.
It started with a simple MRI to check for arthritis, but soon after, Gina felt awful, with shaking, numbness, and brain fog. Doctors used a dye called gadolinium, which stayed in her body and caused big problems. Chuck said they spent $2 million on treatments, including trips to China for stem cell help. She went to the emergency room 6 times and stayed in hospitals for months. They even sued the dye makers for $10 million, but later dropped it. Chuck stopped acting to care for her, showing a soft side to the tough guy we know. Now they warn others about this danger. That was a hard chapter for Chuck, but life threw him another curveball with a friend's sudden death. Keep watching to hear how it shook him up. Number 14. The death that broke Chuck's tough guy heart. Chuck Norris felt a deep loss when his friend Lee Atwater died in 1991. Lee was a big name in politics, helping Ronald Reagan and George Bush win elections. But at just 40, he collapsed during a speech and found out he had a brain tumor. He got so sick he could barely whisper. Chuck visited him in the hospital, one of the few allowed in. He kissed Lee's forehead goodbye and cried hard in his car after. In his book Against All Odds, Chuck wrote how this hit him like a punch. Lee's death made him think about life and how fast it can end, even for someone so strong. It showed Chuck's heart behind the action hero. Chuck's tears dried, but his story with Bruce Lee was just heating up. Stay tuned to find out what he said about the legend. Number 13. Chuck spills the real deal on Bruce Lee. In 2025, Chuck Norris, now 85, shared the real story about Bruce Lee.
He's great. He's a super person. He plays a good guy in my movie.
They first crossed paths in 1968 at a karate tournament in New York. Soon they were buddies, working out together in Chuck's backyard. Chuck said Bruce's speed was unreal. He hit pads in seconds. He praised Bruce for making martial arts huge, with over 200 million fans today inspired by him. Chuck laughed off tales of a hidden brawl, saying they just sparred lightly, nothing serious. For The Way of the Dragon, Bruce chose Chuck as his opponent, and they filmed that famous fight over 5 days. Chuck's big reveal? Bruce was a pal who boosted his career, not a foe. That settles the rumors, but it leaves us wondering one thing. Stick around to see who'd come out on top in a dream fight. Number 12. Chuck vs. Bruce. Who'd win the ultimate showdown? Fans have argued for years about who'd win if Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee fought for real. Both were born in 1940 and at their peak in the early 1970s. Chuck stood taller at 5 feet 10 inches and 170 pounds, a karate champ with 6 world titles from 1968 to 1974.
I taught for 15 years. I was the world champion from 68 to 74.
Wow.
Bruce, at 5 feet 7 inches and 135 pounds, ruled with speed, once throwing 9 punches in a second during a demo. Chuck's style was power and kicks, winning 65 of 77 tournament fights. Bruce mixed Wing Chun and his own Jeet Kune Do, dodging hits like lightning. In 2025, Chuck said Bruce's quickness was tough to match, but he never picked a winner. Experts say Bruce's agility might edge out Chuck's strength in a street fight. Still, no one knows for sure since they never battled outside their movie. We've sized up that fight, but their big screen clash is a whole other story. Keep watching to relive that epic moment. Number 11, that epic Coliseum brawl everyone's still talking about. Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee threw down in the Way of the Dragon in 1972, and it's still a fight fans can't forget. They filmed it in Rome's Colosseum, a huge place holding 50,000 audience back in the day. Bruce played Tang Lung, Chuck was Colt, and their battle lasted 10 minutes on screen. It took 5 days to shoot, with no wires or tricks, just real moves. Bruce bribed guards with $1,000 to sneak in, getting only 1 hour before they got kicked out. Chuck said Bruce yanked out his chest hair for real, making it raw. The movie made $130 million worldwide on a $130,000 budget, a massive hit. That fight's so big, it's studied in film schools now. Chuck called it the best martial arts scene ever, and fans agree. That clash was unreal, but Chuck's early years were just as wild. Stay with me to hear about his rough start. Number 10. Chuck's rough childhood you'd never guess. Chuck Norris didn't have an easy start. Born in 1940 in Oklahoma, he grew up poor with his mom, Wilma, and 2 brothers. His dad, Ray, was a mechanic and a World War II vet who drank too much. Chuck wrote in against all odds that Ray's drinking scared them all. Once, Ray crashed their car while drunk, killing a woman, and got sent to a work camp. Chuck was just 10 then, and he'd visit, hoping Ray would change. But Ray kept drinking, even threatening Wilma for cash. Chuck and his brothers hid during those fights. By 16, his parents split, and Chuck moved to California with Wilma. He was shy, got average grades, and stayed out of sports. That tough life pushed him to find strength later. Ray died in 1971 from drinking, leaving Chuck to carry those hard memories. Chuck's early days were dark, but his family life got even crazier as he grew up. Hang on to see what happened next. Number 9. Inside Chuck's crazy family life. Chuck Norris's family life is full of twists. He tied the knot with Diane Holcheck in 1958, his high school love, at just 18. Their son Mike came along in 1962, followed by Eric in 1964. But in 1963, Chuck had a daughter, Dina, with another woman. He didn't know about her until she was 16, and they met when she was 26, after she sent him a letter in 1990. Chuck and Diane raised their boys for 30 years through his karate wins and early films. Then in 1988, they divorced. In 1998, Chuck married Gina O'Kelly, who's 23 years younger. They welcomed twins, Dakota and Danilee, in 2001 when Chuck was 61. Gina had 2 kids from before, so Chuck's got 5 kids total, plus stepkids. He has stayed close to them, even with the ups and downs. That mix of secret kids and 2 long marriages makes his family one wild ride. Chuck's home life was a roller coaster, but his wallet tells another tale. Stick around to see how much cash he's stacked up. If you're enjoying this video so far, hit that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts. We'd love to hear what you think about Chuck's story. Number 8, how loaded is Chuck Norris? Really, Chuck Norris has piled up some serious cash over the years. As of 2025, his net worth sits at $70 million, according to Forbes. That's a big number for a guy who started with nothing. Back in the 1970s, he earned $10,000 per movie, but his pay jumped to $250,000 for An Eye for an Eye in 1981. His TV hit Walker, Texas Ranger ran from 1993 to 2001, pulling in millions more through reruns. Chuck's not just an actor, though. He opened karate schools in the 1960s, teaching stars like Steve McQueen, and still runs them today. His water company, Sea Force, which started in 2015 with Gina, bottles water from his Texas ranch and adds to his bank account. Plus, he has done ads for Total Gym for over 30 years, raking in steady cash. Chuck owns a 1,000-acre ranch in Navasota, Texas, and sold a Dallas home in 2013 for $1.2 million. With all the movies, TV, and businesses, he's said to make about $30 million a year. That's a long way from his Air Force days. Chuck's wealth is stacked high, but his golden years are just as impressive. Watch on to see how he's still kicking at 85. Number 7. Chuck at 84, still kicking like he's 48. Chuck Norris turned 85 in March 2025, but he is still going strong. On his 84th birthday, he posted a video on Instagram, punching a boxing bag with speed and power. He wrote, "I feel like I'm 48 and fans went wild with over 50,000 likes in a day." Chuck's last big movie was The Expendables 2 in 2012, but he's back in 2025 with Agent Recon, playing a tough captain at 85. He works out daily on his Texas ranch, using Total Gym gear he has pitched since 1997. Chuck told New Beauty in 2023 he walks, prays, and lifts weights with Gina to stay fit.
And the next day I said, oh man, I'm feeling muscles, but I didn't realize I had.
Doctors say he's got the heart of a man half his age thanks to 60 years of martial arts. He's a black belt in 3 styles, including Tang Soo Do, Judo, and Jiu-Jitsu, and still spar lightly. At 5'10" and 170 pounds, he's kept his fighting shape. Chuck's Kickstart Kids program has trained over 100,000 teens since 1990, showing he's not slowing down. Age hasn't stopped him yet. Chuck's still a force, but his love life has its own kicks and turns. Stay with me to hear that story next. Number 6. Chuck's love story, high school to Hollywood. Chuck Norris's love life started young and grew big. He met Diane Holchek in 1956 at Torrance High School in California. They fell hard, and by 1958, Chuck, at just 18 years of age, married her in his Air Force uniform. They stayed solid for 30 years, raising sons, Mike and Eric, through Chuck's karate and movie days. But in 1988, after 30 years, they split. Chuck stayed single for a while, then met Gina O'Kelly in 1997 on a dinner date. She was 23 years younger, a former model, and caught his eye fast. A year later, in 1998, they got hitched. In 2001, they had twins, Dakota and Danalee, when Chuck was 61. Gina had 2 kids already, and Chuck embraced them too. He's called Gina his best friend on Instagram, posting in 2021 for their 23rd anniversary, "I love you with all my heart." They've traveled the world from Santa Cruz to Comic-Con and run businesses together. Chuck went from a shy teen with Diane to a Hollywood husband with Gina, a journey of 2 big loves. Chuck's heart found its match, but his early days shaped him too. Keep watching to see how he got started. Number 5. From viral jokes to big screen comebacks. Chuck Norris became a legend online with viral jokes starting in 2005. It kicked off on the Something Awful forums, where fans made up wild Chuck Norris facts. Stuff like Chuck Norris doesn't sleep, he waits got huge, spreading to over 50 websites by 2006. Conan O'Brien jumped in, cracking jokes on late night about Chuck's Walker, Texas Ranger days. By 2007, Chuck wrote the official Chuck Norris fact book, selling thousands of copies. Over 10 million people have shared these gags on social media, turning him into a meme king. But Chuck didn't stop there.
I taught for 15 years. Yeah, I was the world champion from 68 to 74.
Wow.
After his last big role in The Expendables 2 in 2012, he took a break. Then in 2025, he roared back with Agent Recon, a sci-fi action flick. At 85, he plays Alistair, a commander fighting aliens in New Mexico. Filming wrapped in 2024, and it's his first movie in over a decade. Chuck trained hard, proving those jokes about his toughness weren't all hype. The film's budget hit $15 million, banking on his name to draw crowds. Chuck's online fame kept him alive, but now he's back on the big screen. So how did this tough guy get his start? Stick around to hear about his Air Force days next. Number 4. Why Chuck rules the action star game. Chuck Norris became a top action star with grit and hits. After The Way of the Dragon in 1972, he starred in Breaker! In 1977, a trucker revenge flick that made $10 million on a tiny budget. By 1984, Missing in Action raked in $22 million, kicking off a string of war hero roles. His biggest win was Walker, Texas Ranger, starting in 1993. It ran 8 seasons with 203 episodes and pulled 13 million viewers a week at its peak. Chuck played Cordell Walker, a Texas lawman, and fans loved it, as reruns still air in the 2025. He made over 30 movies, grossing $500 million worldwide by 1990. Chuck's secret? Real martial arts skills, not just stunts. He trained stars like Steve McQueen and ran karate schools pulling in $1 million a year by the 1980s. At 5'10" and 170 pounds, he brought power to every punch. Critics called him the blonde Bruce Lee, but Chuck carved his own path with American-style action. Even now, his name sells tickets. Chuck owned the action world, but his rough start made him who he is. Keep watching to dig into his wild childhood next. Number 3. How Chuck became a martial arts badass. Chuck Norris turned into a martial arts powerhouse through hard work. He started in 1958 training in Tang Soo Do while in the Air Force in South Korea. By 1962, he had a black belt and opened his first karate school in California. Chuck jumped into tournaments, losing his first 3 fights in 1965 to guys like Joe Louis. But he didn't quit. By 1967, he won the Tournament of Karate, beating 7 opponents in one night. In 1968, he took the World Middleweight Karate Championship, holding it for 6 years straight. He racked up 65 wins out of 77 fights, retiring undefeated in 1974. Chuck also earned black belts in judo and jiu-jitsu, training 6 hours a day at his peak. His schools grew to 32 locations, teaching over 10,000 students by the 1980s, including celebrities like Priscilla Presley. At 5'10" and 170 pounds, his kicks were so fast they clocked at 60 miles per hour. That skill got Bruce Lee's attention in 1968, sparking their bond. Chuck's record made him a legend before Hollywood called. Chuck's fists made him a star, but Bruce Lee took it to another level. Stay tuned to hear about the guy who changed it all. Number 2, Bruce Lee, the legend who changed it all. Bruce Lee was a force who flipped martial arts upside down. Born in 1940 in San Francisco, he grew up in Hong Kong, acting in 20 kid movies by age 18. At 15, he trained in Wing Chun under Master IP Man, learning fast punches. In 1959, he moved to Seattle, studying at the University of Washington, and started teaching his own style. By 1964, he showed off at a karate event, throwing 9 punches in a second. Bruce Lee created Jeet Kune Do, mixing moves to be quick and free, not stiff. His big break came in 1966 with The Green Hornet playing Kato on TV. Then in 1971, The Big Boss made $50 million worldwide on a $100,000 budget, while The Way of the Dragon in 1972 hit $130 million, with that Chuck fight sealing his fame. Bruce stood 5 feet 7 inches, 135 pounds, but his speed hit 0.05 seconds per strike. He died in 1973 at 32, but his films changed action roles forever, inspiring over 200 million fans today. Chuck said Bruce made martial arts cool for everyone. Bruce lit the world up, but Chuck's first steps were just as big. Next up, hear how his Air Force days kicked it all off. Number 1. Chuck's Air Force days that sparked a legend. Chuck Norris's journey kicked off in the Air Force. In 1958, at 18, he joined up and got sent to Osan Air Base in South Korea as an air policeman. That's where he got the nickname Chuck from his buddies. He was bored on duty, so he started training in Tang So Do, a Korean martial art, at a nearby gym. By 1961, he earned his first black belt, training 4 hours a day after shifts. Chuck stood 5 feet 10 inches and 155 pounds then, building muscle fast. He served until 1962, leaving as an Airman First Class from March Air Force Base in California. That time overseas flipped a switch as he fell in love with fighting. Back home, he worked at Northrop Aviation, saving $5,000 to open his first karate school in Torrance in 1963. It grew quickly, pulling in $2,000 a month by 1965. Those Air Force years gave him the guts and skills to chase bigger dreams. Over 60 years later, in 2025, Chuck credits that start for everything, including karate titles, movies, and all of it. We've reached the end of the video. Like and subscribe for more content if you enjoyed it. Comment below about your favorite Chuck Norris moment. See you next time.